Am I audible? Yeah? Mic testing 1, 2, 3. Yeah? Okay. Have you ever wondered when, people are invited to give a talk on a particular stage, almost half of them start up with the same thing like mic testing 1, 2, 3. Can I hear you? Am I audible? Things like that, right? And well, there are people who are probably singers, beatboxers, rappers, and artists. They could beatbox, they could rap, they could sing, they can do so many things to test their mics. But yeah, again, coming back to mic testing 1, 2, 3. So it's like there's something conventional, like I feel that a country is kind of conventional in a lot of ways, right? Now, how many of your friends are doing engineering in their life? Like, aren't majority of your friends opted for engineering in India? No, yes? Yeah, all right, cool. Anyway, so how many of you guys have gone out for dinner with your parents in a restaurant? Almost all of you. What's the common thing that you guys order over there? Butter chicken, paneer butter masala, dal fry, rice, and things like that, right? क्या हुआ? Are you guys like energy less है क्या? Red Bull दूँ? थोड़ा enthusiastic हो जाओ यार, college students हो. It feels like I'm in an MBA college. जैसे बैठे हो तुम लोग. Trust me, that is how they are like that. It takes so much time to get them out of their comfort zone and all of that. So anyway, I'm Mohammed Zishan. I run an education technology startup called The Climber, which helps teenagers and students like you get mentored in the field of your interests and your passions. And I started this off when I was 19, when I was in college, second year of college, right before an exam. So 3 years ago, I was sitting in my hostel room, couple of my friends, and we all know what happens in a hostel room a night before the exam, right? It's YouTube, basically. You spend half of your time over there. Like, you discuss everything under the sun. We discuss politics, economics, quantum physics, astrophysics, Amma. That is like, I was in Chennai, so. And of course, Sunny Leon as well. We did everything. We discussed everything under the sun except for studies. And throughout the course of discussion, what we realized was my friend over there wanted to become an economist. I wanted to become an astronomer. The third person wanted to be a writer. So how did it happen that three people with such distinct passions and different interests end up studying for fluid dynamics the night before the exam? How did that happen? Three people from three different parts of the country studying the same thing, a course, subject that they are really not interested in, and slogging their off, right? So we realized that there was some problem in the education system. How many of you agree to that? I can bet my life 100% of you sitting over here at one point or the other in your lives have said that the Indian education system, yeah, we have all done that. So we know that there was a problem. There was a problem that existed in the society. We had been cribbing about it. We had been complaining about it. We've been abusing it. We've been going through it, all of that. But did we do anything about changing it? Did we do anything about, going out there and try to make it better? We didn't. We keep complaining about things, but we don't really go out there and solve it, right? We don't really go out there and try to solve problems that we face in day-to-day lives. Am I audible properly? Yeah? Okay, perfect. So that's what we did. We decided, okay, we are going through a mess. Our juniors are going to go through the same thing. Our seniors went through the same thing. So why don't we go out there and try to solve it? And that is what startups are all about. Starting up doesn't mean money. Starting up doesn't mean fame and all of that. That really happens. So much of feedback. Okay, that really happens. What starting up is all about is going out there and solving problems for the society, solving problems for businesses, people, community, and all of that. And the kind of segment that I belong to, or my startup works on, is education. How many of you have heard about this thing called United Nations Sustainable Development Goals? A few of you guys, right? So, yeah, we try to solve one of those problems, which is quality education. And throughout the 3 years, we have impacted more than 35,000 students in 12 different cities. And we were recognized by the United Nations as amongst the top 50 youth-led initiatives in the world trying to solve the world's toughest problems. And that is all that the Climber does. So I'm over here basically to talk about starting up in college, how you can balance both the things like college as well as academics, and why I feel college is the best time to start up. Alright, so can we start with the talk? Perfect. Before that, let me just show you a video. It's not the kind of videos we were watching that night, by the way.
I'm really sorry, there's something.
So, how many of you have been following news these days? In terms of what's happening in the startup ecosystem? You guys follow news? InShots? How many of you use InShots? Startup completely changed the way we consume news these days. 60 words on your fingertips, damn. You won't be seeing newspapers in the future. And I'm telling you this because I have had the privilege of interacting with Mr. N. Ram, who's the chairman of the Hindu Group. And he also told us the same thing, that print is dying. In the next 10 years, 8 years, print would be out. So you have to involve technology in media as well, and that is what you're seeing. You read more things on Scoop Whoop, Logical Indian, etc. than you read on your Times of India app or conventional media sources, right? So, okay, let's start with the video.
Right now, there is a kid finishing parents' evening in a heated discussion with his mother, saying, why does he have to study subjects he will never ever use in his life? And she will look at him blank-eyed, stifle a sigh, think for a second, and then lie. She'll say something along the lines of, you know, to get a good job you need a good degree, and these subjects will help you get a good degree. We never had this opportunity when I was younger. And he will reply, but you were young a long time ago, weren't you, Mum? And she won't respond, although what he implies makes perfect sense, that society's needs would have changed since she was 16. But she will ignore him, grip his hand more sternly, then drag him to the car. But what she doesn't know is that she didn't ignore him just to shut him up. She didn't lie because they were just returning from parents' evening and an argument in the hallway would look bad on her resume. She won't lie because she just spent the last 1 hour convincing a stern-faced teacher that she will ensure that her child studies more at home. No, she will lie simply because she does not know any better herself. Although her whole adult life she has never used or applied Pythagoras' theorem, pathetic fallacy, and still does not know the value of X. She will rely on society to tell her that her child, who has one of the sharpest minds in the school, is hyperactive, unfocused, easily distracted, and wayward. Students, how many equations, subjects, and dates did you memorize just before an exam never to use again? How many A grades did you get which were never asked for when you applied for a job? How many times have you remembered something 5 minutes just after the teacher said stop writing, only to receive your results 1 month later to realize that you were only 1 mark short of the top grade? Does that mean remembering 5 minutes earlier would have made you more qualified for a particular job? Well, on the application form it would have. We all have different abilities, thought processes, experiences, and genes. So why is a class full of individuals tested by the same means? So does that mean Sherelle thinks she's dumb because she couldn't do a couple of sums? And if this issue is not addressed properly, it then becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Then every school has the audacity to have a policy on equality. The irony. Exams are society's methods of telling you what you're worth, but you can't let society tell you what you are, because it's the same society that tells you that abortion is wrong but then looks down on teenage parents, the same society that sells products to promote natural hair, looks, and smooth complexion, with the model on the box half photoshopped and has fake lashes and hair extensions, with pastors that preach charity but own private jets, imams that preach against greed but are all fat, parents that say they want educated kids but constantly marvel at how rich Richard Branson is, governments that preach peace but endorse wars, that say they believe so much in the importance of higher education and further learning, then why increase tuition fees every single year? I believed Miss Jefferson when she took me into the office and said that my exams would be imperative to my success. Cause we was taught to always follow when Miss Jefferson led. But then I took Jefferson out of the equation and learned to think for myself. I realized we was taught to always follow when Miss led. Huh, the irony. Test us with tests, but the finals are never final, cause they never prepare us for the biggest test, which is survival. And what I suggest is fairly outlandish, so I do not expect everyone to understand this, except for the kids who knows what it feels like to be worth no more than that D or that A that you get on results day. And the ones whose best stories were never good enough for the English teacher, cause apparently you missed out key literal techniques, did not follow the class plan, and the language was too informal for him to understand. But then he'd reference Hamlet and Macbeth, and you'd fight the urge to express your contempt by partially clenching your fist with only your medius finger left protruding in the middle of your hand, and then asked if he was aware that Shakespeare was known as the innovator of slang. Or the kid at the back of the class who thinks, why am I studying something that doesn't fuel my drive? But then when confronted with a maths problem, his eyes come alive. So this one is for my generation, the ones who found what they were looking for on Google, the ones who followed their dreams on Twitter, pictured their future on Instagram, accepted destiny on Facebook. This one's for my failures and my dropouts, for my unemployed graduates, my shop assistants, cleaners and cashiers with bigger dreams, my self-employed entrepreneurs, my world changers and my dream chasers. Cause the purpose of why I hate school but love education was not to initiate a worldwide debate, but to let them know that whether 72 or 88, 44 or 68, we will not let exam results decide our fate. Peace.
How was it? It's one of the most impacting videos I've seen in my life, and I make sure that whenever I'm talking at a college or at any forum, I make sure that this video is shown over there. So like I said, 3 years ago we were sitting down in a hostel room discussing things, and we decided to start up. Now it was tough, right? Because we had to balance academics, and we had to balance so many tests as well as the pressure of starting up. And I'll just go through all of that. Why is this like this? Okay. Okay, yeah. So coming back to the talk, let's focus on the first thing. I already mentioned that startups are about solving problems, right? So let's take a few examples. What do you think is the problem that Ola solves? Anyone? Come on, shout it out. Daily transportational needs. What do you think Oyo solves? Oh yeah, economical, safe, accommodation, things like that. What do you think InShots is solving? Fair enough. So do you realize that most of the popular startups, or most of the startups which are doing great in the world, are solving real problems that exist in the world, right? They did not start because they wanted to make money. They started because there was a vision that they had, there was a problem that they were really passionate about, and they went out there to solve that problem. And that is what you guys, when you guys are starting off, also need to know. Now, the first step of starting up, people usually, so how many of you want to start up over here first? Few of you. Alright. So the first question that comes to your mind is, yes, start kaise karu? What is my first step, right? That is what even you guys would be going through right now. Yes, no? Let's make it more interactive. I'm not a professor. Okay. Yeah? Cool. Perfect. So, sorry if any professors are over here. I'm just scared, dude. I graduated last year, so the fear is still in my heart. So the first step is finding problems, and it's not just about finding problems as well. You need to be really passionate about the problem that you're solving. right? Because what will happen is, let's say you see a problem of pollution, or you see a problem of dirtiness in the campus, and you want to solve that. But are you really passionate about that particular thing? Are you really passionate about solving that problem? Is it education that really, ignites you, or the problems in education that really ignites you? Or is it sports, or is it cleanliness, or is it other things? You need to be really focused upon what field you're choosing as well when it comes to identifying or solving a problem over there, because otherwise what will happen is, as you're progressing through the field, you might want to drop it off in between because you're not enjoying what you do. And starting up is about doing that as well, right? You want to be your own boss, you want to do something that you really love, and you want to keep doing it. You don't want to be pressurized at work. You should be feeling like, okay, I'm doing this not as a job, but I'm doing it because I love doing this, right? So that is one part of thing. Identifying problems is one part, yes, but also being passionate about that problem is something that you guys should be really, focused towards. So I don't know how many of you know the Ola story, but the founder was traveling to a place, if I'm not wrong, like in between some place, and the cab driver that he was, the cab that he was in, just suddenly decided that, he had some arguments with him, and the cab decided to drop him off in the middle of the place, stranded in between, nowhere to go. He realized, he went through the entire problem and realized that there's so much of, uncertainty when it comes to booking a cab. The question of safety, the question of reliability, question of pricing, all of that. And a solution for this was still not there yet in India, even though Uber was there in America at that point of time. So he decided to go and start that particular thing over here, right? So it is about solving problems and identifying problems in the first go. Let's move to the second slide. Yeah, Airbnb? Okay, I'll tell you a fun fact. How many of you know the Hilton Group? Yeah, about 100 odd years old company in more than 108 countries around the world, owning properties, premium luxury properties in all of these places. And Airbnb is what, like 4.5, 5 years old company? Yeah, if I'm not wrong. That's Airbnb, right? 4.5, 5 years old company. Now it's just a website where people post stuff like, okay, I have a room empty in my house and you can rent it for a day or two if you're coming down to my city. It's just a platform. It doesn't own any properties. But the valuation of Airbnb is higher than that of Hilton. Think about it. That's what startups and that's what technology enables you to do. Like Airbnb is supposed to be valued around somewhere between $30 to $40 billion, whereas Hilton Group combined is $19 billion. It's surprising, right? In 4.5, 5 years, how could you do that? And you're just a website or an app. You're not even a company which owns any kind of properties. Another example of how many of you use Instagram? Yeah? And you have heard about New York Times? Yeah? So New York Times is where Nobel laureates, write articles and really learned people write things over there. And Instagram is where we click selfies and we put photos of our food and all of that. Surprisingly, Instagram, when it was sold off, was valued more than the New York Times, which is like 100, 200-year-old newspaper in the United States. That's what the power of startups is. That's what power of technological startups is, to be more accurate about it. So that's why it has been very popular in the recent times. Why a lot of people are moving towards startups. 2010, people used to use DSLR. Engineers used to use DSLR to impress girls. Then they moved into stand-up comedy. And abhi 2014, 2015, everybody's starting up, right? Okay. The second step that comes to you, or what you should be doing as soon as you've identified what is the problem that you want to solve, is getting a team. Now, how many of you are mechanical engineers out there? Okay, quite a few of you. Do you guys know how to code? Oh, do you guys know how to build apps? Hey, I should realize I was in an NIT and not an SRM. So great. So you guys can, you mechanical engineers have these skills to go out and build your own applications. But people from my college or the kind of colleges that I went to, there we didn't have these kind of skills. So we used to get co-founders, and usually this happens in out of places as well, where you want to start up in a particular domain or you want to start up in a particular field, but you don't really have the expertise of that field. So what do? You get co-founders, you get other people who have that knowledge or know how to build an app or have certain bit of, what do you call it, business acumen or experience, and you get them on board. Because instead of you focusing on building those skills for the next 2 to 3 years, you can have partners in your own firm or co-founders of your own firm doing that and accelerating your progress, right? So over here, like Samir was an industrial engineering student who was completely into UI UX design, and he was the one who started off with me. Then Fatima over there was a design student from MITD, and she used to take care of all the branding and needs. Rohan over there was a Twitter genius. He has like 10,000, 12,000 followers on Twitter, and he was a social media influencer, and he knew how this entire social media and digital marketing function. So instead of me sitting down and learning how UI UX works, how design works, or how social media or digital marketing works, I just got on people in and around. Okay, in and around from my college or my friends or my school network to start off with me. And the thing is, before you, while you're choosing a team, there's one more thing that is very important. Now, you are driven towards a passion and a vision, right? You wanted to solve that problem. But in case you don't have a team which is focused on that as well, or is connected to that vision or that particular, trying to solve that particular problem, it becomes a mess. So when you're looking out for people in your team and you say, "Ki kahan pe milenge?" Look around. You have 1,000 people on your campus. I'm sure a lot of people with the skill sets that you need would be interested in solving a particular problem as well. So first team is getting the first team is very easy in a college, especially because, bro, juniors, bro. Yeah, you just tell them, I'm going to give you a certificate. You just tell them, I'm giving you an internship opportunity. The reason why they do it is because they want to build their profiles as well. They want to learn things. They want experience, as we call it. And it actually helps. We've seen that happening, right? And for us who are starting up in college, it's becomes very easy for us to rope in juniors and join our startup as well, because probably we have that kind of a bond in colleges with your juniors and things like that. So when you're starting up in college, this is one of the most advantageous things that you'll get. Yeah, and the first salary that you need to pay them is just this. I don't know about NIT, okay, like you guys are big people, man. But yeah, when we were in SRM, I don't smoke or drink, by the way, just saying. But yeah, when we were in college, the only thing that I used to take my juniors or my team to is for having a chai or having a smoke or whatever they want to do. And they don't really ask for money, man, because like the end of the day, they want to learn things. They want an experience. All right, I should quickly change the slide before a professor comes in. But yeah. Anyway, so that's what the advantage of starting up in college is. You get a team which is not asking you for salary, so you don't need to spend money to build your first product. You have juniors with you who are ready to go out there and do market research for you, strike BD partnerships for you, and things like that. All you need to do is have a connect with them and bond them over and win them over with your trust. And people with diverse skill sets are available on your own campus itself. How easy can it get to build a team in such an environment? Trust me, it is very, very simple. And when you're starting up in college, you have a good 2 years or 1.5 years or 1 year of runway, right? You don't need to spend too much of money to build your product. You're not going to go into huge losses or anything like that, and you have a time before you move into a market. You don't have external responsibilities. You're not married. You don't have to take care of your parents. You don't have right now immediately, but you don't have to take care of your family or anything like that, compared to what you will be doing 6 years down the line, 7 years down the line when you will be starting up. All right, at that time you'll have a lot of things to lose. because probably your job would be a very, very high paying job at that time because you have experience, as well as the fact that your startup is still in a question phase, right? You don't know whether it's going to work out or not. So it's a huge risk that you're taking 6-7 years down the line compared to what you will be doing while you're in college. And it's very easy to again get your grades back up, or focus on academics, shift gears, come into the academic seat in case your startup doesn't work out. So the other thing that I really want to focus on is priority. Now, when you're starting up in college, you have college grades to take care of, you have clubs and organizations that you have joined, right? How many of you are in some other organization inside the college? Some student club and things like that. So there are a lot of responsibilities that come with that as well. So how do you balance all of that? The single most important thing over here is just one word answer. You need to prioritize. And when you're starting up, startup cannot be your second priority. Remember that. Okay, and it's not that you don't have the time to do it. You have 24 hours in the day. Yaar. Okay, I'm not gonna go ahead with that. Okay, yeah, so a lot of it, like I said, if you guys have been focusing on what the startup ecosystem news has been coming out in the last 1.5 years, this is a point that I had to add now. Earlier on, I wouldn't be too focused upon the business model at the first go itself. I would focus more on, trying to prove whether your product or your solution is needed in the market. But now I feel that business model, at least making a business model as a rough part of it, is required to give you a sense of direction and to see whether people would be willing to spend money to buy your product or not. And that is very, very important right now because, as you know, funds are drying up. We young entrepreneurs have screwed up the startup ecosystem as well. A lot of us, like these young entrepreneurs, have raised millions of dollars and then the company shut down operations because unit economics wasn't really well. So because of what has happened in the last 2 years, 1.5 years in the startup ecosystem, I suggest that, forming a business model or having an idea of how or why would the people be paying you to consume your service or your product is really essential. Yeah, the next step is obviously to build a prototype. Now your prototype doesn't need to be, something really great. How many of you remember the first time when Facebook was launched? Right? So there was no timeline or there's no messenger or this absolutely just basic things. You could see their relationship status, of course. You could see their age. You could see which college they belong to. You could probably drop a text on the wall. I guess wall was still there, no? Wall wasn't also there. So the first thing that Facebook launched was very, very basic. Even WhatsApp didn't have fancy things like what it has right now when they started off. Snapchat didn't have filters, if I'm not wrong, when they first launched. And they didn't have news sections or anything. You don't need to build a perfect product before you move to the market. You just need to build a product enough to solve the problem of your customer. That's it. For us, when we started the mentoring program that I was talking about, of how we did it on WhatsApp groups. Okay, we used to connect mentors to the other people on WhatsApp groups. No technology needed at all. We didn't have to invest time to build a really huge prototype or a brilliant product and then enter the market. What we simply did was we found a solution. We saw that, okay, this is the way also that we can solve the same problem, and we launched it into the market. We saw whether the people are responding to something like this, whether they want something like this, whether they are planning to buy it, spend money on our services. And only when we realized that, okay, there are more than 1,000 customers who we've had who have paid us a certain amount of money, and we know that, okay, now the market has been tested and we know that this is going through, only then we started investing on technology and building actual products with our own platform or with our own apps and things like that. Before that, we were all doing it on external platforms just to test the market before we make a heavy investment on our prototypes or any of like. So first thing is to build a minimal viable product, MVP, not a prototype, sorry for that. And that should be your first goal. For example, if you want to start something like a tiffin service in NID over here, you don't really need an app to start that, right? You can just go do it on ground for a start, and only once you see that, okay, it's picking up pace and you need technology to cater to the number of orders coming in, then you move into building apps and things like that. So technology should be used to scale the product. It's a beautiful quote by the founder of LinkedIn. I was embarrassed, dude. Like, who the hell charges people for WhatsApp groups? We did that. Yeah, so this is something called Lean. So this method of taking feedback from the market, rebuilding, and focusing on early traction and things like that falls under something called the Lean method, which is like more of a scientific method to do a startup. You have processes in place, right? So you launch an MVP or you launch a very basic solution, a very basic app or anything like that into the market. You take market feedback. So the worse the app is, the more better market feedback you would get in terms of what should be added or what should be deleted. So over a period of time when you're following this, what happens is you build a product according to the market needs and not what you think in your hostel room is what is required by the market. Okay, so this is something that you guys need to do. You guys need to launch a very basic product, can be a very bad product. Let the market decide what it wants. Let the market give you feedback. 2 minutes, okay? Yeah, sorry for that. Let the market give you feedback, and at the end what you'll have is a product which the market wants. What else do you need, right? The market has told you what it wants and you're giving it to them. It can't fail that way. Yeah, so when you're in college, this thing happens, okay? You will go down, you will go wrong, and you will fail. We failed a lot of times when we started. We didn't start off with a magazine. We didn't start off with a mentoring program. What we started off was as a magazine. Okay, the same. We wanted to provide information to teenagers. So college students were writing articles for school students, and all of that was happening. And we realized that okay, in this age in school, nobody subscribes to a magazine. Nobody has a time to read something apart from their academic books or is remotely interested in something like that. And if you know, the print segment or print industry requires a heavy investment in the first go. Okay, it scales as it reduces, the investment reduces as the industry scales. But in the start, you have to put in a lot of money to, make your first magazine, especially if it's a print edition, all of that. So we started off by borrowing $60,000 from our parents, and within 2 months of running it, we're bankrupt. We didn't have any money to even print the next magazine. And it was total chaos. We didn't know what to do because there were around 200 people who had already subscribed to the magazine, which meant that we had to cater them for the next 1 year, which meant we were actually in debt of around 2.5 lakhs. And we were 19-year-olds. We didn't know what to do with that and how to do it. So, but one thing I'm sure that I knew was, I was a part of a lot of organizations like ISEC, Enactus and all of that. And the situations we faced over there were also similar. And because of my experience in these organizations, on these clubs inside the college, we knew that problems come in, you need to solve those problems and you need to persevere. And that is what stuck to us. We kept on trying new things again and again, brainstorm, we didn't give up. And we found solutions to raise money quickly. For example, we started doing events inside schools. And because we're doing events inside schools, there were a lot of companies who wanted to make use of that opportunity and sponsor or advertise themselves. So we were, instead of, making money through advertisements inside the magazine, we're doing events inside schools to raise money to run the magazine. So it was all chaotic. We're trying to do a lot of things and we're trying to figure ourselves out. And this is what happens with every startup as well. You start off with something, then there's a period of chaos in between when you're trying to figure out what you want to do or what you want to go ahead with. And then only later on, like say 1.5 years, 1 year it takes, and then probably even more than 2 to 3 years, and only then you realize finally, okay, this is the product, this is what is going to scale, and this is what I want to work forward on. So there will be a lot of chaos, but don't give up. And during this period, one day we were watching this movie called Dead Poets Society. How many of you have seen that? Okay, so when we saw Dead Poets Society, we were like, okay, what is really needed in India, what is really needed is to provide a mentor to each and every teenagers going through all of the problem of career, societal pressures, parental pressures, and all of that. And it happened by watching a movie. And that is what we did. The next day we were presenting in our B-Plan competition. We revamped our entire pitch deck. We completely changed what we were going to be presenting over there. We presented the mentoring program. We went through the final stages. We were ranked as 7th out of 230 odd startups over, 430 odd startups over there. And we're like, okay, this makes sense. And we started working on that. When we launched that product, when we launched something called mycaptain.in, which is our mentoring platform taken from Dead Poets Society, when we launched that, within 2 days of launching, we had broken even. We were out of debt. We made like 2.5 lakhs in revenue inside the college itself. And that happened in 2 days. So it just like, you need to keep trying out different things. You need to keep persevering and not give up. Had we given up back then, we wouldn't have scaled up to 35,000 students on our platform that is there today. So perseverance is very important in college. And this is something that I'll suggest. This is the last slide, by the way. Get mentors. Now, you have so many professors in your college, right? They have immense knowledge about a lot of things, and when it comes to technical things, obviously. So you guys can, get in touch with them. They can guide you how to build a first app, or they can guide you how technology is used to, how technology simply works. And when it comes to businesses, or when it comes to forming a startup, remember that there are a lot of people out there in the ecosystem who have made it big, right? In terms of the startup ecosystem or in terms of running their own businesses. Now, they were able to do that because when they were young, or when they were going through the struggling phase, there were people who used to help them out by guiding them, by mentoring them and all of that. So when they are at that level right now, it becomes their moral responsibility to also start mentoring young people like you who are planning to start out. And they do it. They don't charge you anything for that. They don't ask you for equity for that or anything like that. All they need to see is you having that passion to do it, or you being very, very focused about, or very clear about the fact that you want to start up for the right reasons. Okay, so it's not difficult to get industry mentors on board, or amazing investors as well willing to mentor you on board. And that is what is needed, because you are inexperienced. You do not know how to start up, but they do. And getting 1 hour of their time in a month helps you clear a lot of things in your head. And that is what we used to do. I used to travel from Chennai to Bangalore every month, 1 hour of meeting with one of my mentors at IIM Bangalore. And he was the one who told us to move out of print. He was the one who told us to move out of magazine, to move into something called education technology, basically using technology to scale education. And that is how we got on. So we have 4 mentors. Mr. Nagarajan Prakasam is an investor with IAN, Indian Angels Network, and he has mentored over 1,000 startups over the last 20-25 years. He was the one who told us how startups work, set short-term visions and short-term goals for us to be in the same path. So getting a mentor on board is really important. P. Rajshekharan runs a social enterprise, and since we like to call ourselves a social enterprise as well, there's a conflict of impact versus numbers that comes in every time. Whether you need to focus on impact or you want to focus on volume and number of people you're impacting and things like that. So whenever these kind of questions that used to come in, he was the person to go to, and he used to clarify all of our doubts regarding how to take the next step. When it comes to digital marketing, we didn't know anything about digital marketing. So we had someone called Vikas Chawla who runs a digital marketing agency in Chennai, and he used to be guiding us on how to go ahead with Facebook, business tools for Facebook and things like that. And then since we're an education startup, we got a person from the education field, which was my class teacher in 8th grade, who really transformed the kind of student I was back then. And we got her on board, and she's the one who keeps telling us of what students between 9th, 10th, 11th and 12th go through, and what is the need of the hour in the education system right now. So all of these people are the ones who keep giving us gyan and make up for the lack of experience or things that we have. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm not going to talk about what my startup does or anything, but I hope that you guys took things, right? You guys learned a lot on how things work.